What's going on, guys? So the Thor fusion's announced. I'm gonna go ahead and say he's gonna be a damage dealer. Now his skills, his actual abilities look very exciting. However, with all damage dealers, you gotta be careful. We'll wait till some test server footage comes out because he could have incredible multipliers and be a very viable, awesome Hydra champion, or he could have trash multipliers and be useful for far less players. But let's take a look at what kind of fusion this is gonna be. So please note, the format of this fusion will be a bit different, but already familiar to you. Just as usual, you'll need to fuse a legendary champion from epic champions while you need to summon the epic champions from fragments. So we're gonna earn epic champion fragments to make the epic champions, and the epic champions are gonna go into making Thor. Now, hopefully we have a chance to earn the epic from one of the events. We're gonna have to see what epic is involved, but this is going to be pretty demanding. Like, you're going to have to make sure you're on top of all the events and hitting things as you should. But ultimately, this is the type of the fusion. I don't love this type of fusion. Probably one of my least favorites, actually. But that's just what we have, honestly. So hopefully you've been prepared for it. Hopefully you can make this happen. We'll know more as time gets closer. But as far as Thor's skills go, let's take a look. So I'm going to move myself to the other side of the screen real quick. I'm excited for it. First up, he's a magic attack champion. I feel like we have a lot of magic nukers, but hey, it's pretty cool, I guess. Barbarians. What barbarians are nukers? Just like, what are we comparing against? So legendary barbarians, Xena, she's force, okay. Turvold, single target. Odin is a void champion, which we may get eventually, but yeah, other than that, I guess there's not a ton of nukers and barbarians, so it's good to have a good, solid, strong damage dealer, hopefully. Let's take a look at his kit and why I'm thinking so much that he's going to be a damage dealer. So his A1 ability, Wrath of Mjolnir. I don't know how you say that, but attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 20% chance of repeating the attack. Each hit decreases the target's turn meter by 10%. It does need accuracy, but the 20% chance of repeating the attack is going to synergize very good with his passive later on. The A2 ability, I actually had a question about this ability because it says attacks all enemies. So in my head, it's just an AoE attack, but then it says after hitting the first enemy, we'll hit every other enemy in a random order following the initial hit. Each subsequent hit increases the damage inflicted by 25%, stacks up to 100%. So the last enemy hit is going to be doing the highest amount of damage, up to 100%. We'll ignore block damage and unkillable buffs. This effect does not work against bosses. Unfortunately, it's not going to ignore Odin's block damage, though it probably wouldn't be used there anyways. Now, the question I had with this skill was that I already knew the answer, honestly, but I was hoping that it was going to be an AoE attack and then it was going to go in with single target hits. That would be crazy. But instead, it's going to be an AoE attack, but not the typical sense. It's going to hit the first enemy and then bounce to different ones after that. Kind of like a chain lightning or something. So it's kind of cool. It sounds pretty neat. I'm interested in knowing if it's going to be coded where Slayer set could work with this, or if it's going to be coded like Mashald's A1 ability where it hits one enemy and then hits other enemies with Leech. There's benefits to both. The AoE Slayer benefit means you could use Slayer set with them, and it could make a lot of sense. But the other benefit, if it was a single target hit, that just means that the cursed, the Hex debuff in Hydra, you'll actually get more benefit from the single target hits than you do from the AoE stuff. So that could be cool as well. Single target or AoE, doesn't really matter. Seems like a very solid ability. Also, for the arena, for example, you could, first target a damage dealer and then hope that your last hit went onto maybe a tank or something. You know you're going to kill a damage dealer with the first hit, and then that last hit can hopefully do enough damage after scaling to blast the big damage dealer. And then his A3 ability. So attacks all enemies before attacking, places a 50% increased attack buff and a 30% increased crit damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. Awesome. I love the buffs before attacking. Has a 70% chance, books up to 100% chance of permanently decreasing the resistance of each enemy by 10%, stacks up to 50%. Now in Hydra, when the heads respawn, I assume the resistance is going to drop, like it's going to go back to normal. Also has a 100% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. So right off the bat, this is going to be a potentially very good Hydra champion. AoE decreased speed plus an AoE resistance decrease on an ability that's, an AoE skill, reducing it by 10%. That's pretty significant. You're reducing about up to 50%. Maybe you don't get the full 5 attacks from that A3 ability. It may take a while, but even a 10% or 20% resistance decrease is going to make your accuracy, your debuffing champions have an easier time actually applying their debuffs to whatever content you're in, honestly, but especially in Hydra, where you have a long fight and higher accuracy requirements. But then his passive ability. Every time this champion deals damage, increases the thunder counter by 1. We're going to have to test on what things count as his damage and what things don't. But so far, masteries and blessings don't seem, based on what the community manager has said, doesn't seem to be affecting this. But the damages from the AoE skills, it's going to be, if there's 4 enemies, it's going to be 4 stacks of thunder counter. And if it's just, if it's 6 enemies, it's going to be 6 stacks of the thunder counter. But the thunder counter stacks up to 10. But the thunder counter stacks up to 10. Each thunder stack increases his champion's damage, not crit damage, just the damage by 3%. Stacks up to 30%. 30% damage increase. Remember, his A1 ability, he's going to attack 2 times, but then a chance to repeat that attack. So it's boom, 2 hits, 2 thunder counters. You repeat it, 2 more hits, 2 more thunder counters. So you got 4 thunder counters, 12% damage boost, and then once the thunder counter reaches 10, attacks all enemies and places a stun debuff for 1 turn. After the attack, the thunder counter resets to 0. That's pretty awesome. So when we're looking at this kit, for accuracy needs, you do need accuracy for the decreased speed, for the stun. You don't need accuracy for the resistance decrease. So maybe you want to build him with good accuracy, maybe you don't. It really depends if you want to use him for the stun. But since he's going to be attacking so frequently, and it's an AoE skill, I'd say building up 30 stacks of thunder wouldn't be super difficult. Maybe it will be. Maybe it takes too long for you, but you should have a relatively consistent stun champion. Potentially. It's going to be useless in Hydra, but you will have big damage being done, which is awesome. And then he has increases ally attack in all battles by 30%. So honestly, guys, the champion's kit looks awesome. Thor looks like a super solid fusion, but at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to the multipliers. If the multipliers are poor, then the decreased speed is going to be useful in Hydra. You could throw him in a curse set or provoke set. He could still be used, but he's not going to be nearly as exciting as if it comes out with great multipliers. Now he can be using these content, especially considering he doesn't have any decreased defense, nothing that ignores an effect of the enemy. So he has no way to just nuke through stuff in the arena necessarily. But for Hydra, there's plenty of champions, my Obro being one of them, who don't have any decreased defense built into their kit anyways. So champions in Hydra, they don't need it as much because you have the Hydra area benefits. The enemies we're going against don't typically have crazy high amounts of defense anyways. So we can kind of work off of that. But for the arena, you want to have defense ignore, without a doubt. You want to have some good defense ignore to really nuke. Most popular nukers are going to have some kind of defense ignore built into their kit. You have Rotos with a 60% defense ignore. You have Wukong with a 50% defense ignore. You have Georgia with a passive 50% defense ignore. Turvold hits like an absolute truck, doesn't need defense ignore. There are, of course, some champions who don't have any defense ignore, being Leoris. Xena, I think, has a little bit as well. Narcisse has a defense ignore a little bit. So all these popular arena nukers, Siegfried has a defense ignore. So it does help out a ton. But he doesn't have to only be used for the arena. If we have good multipliers, Hydra, easy answer there, I believe. I'm really excited for him. I think it has a potential to be awesome, assuming the multipliers come out pretty solid. If not, then not going to be as excited. But I got high hopes for it. I think he's a cool looking champion. Let me know what you guys think, though. Let me know what you think down below. Are you excited for this fusion? Assuming it's relatively accessible, I'm going to be going for it either way because this should be accessible. As long as I don't have to like spend money and buy shards, I should have enough saved. Unless, of course, they do like a guaranteed Freya, is that her name? If they do a guaranteed event for her and like stack these, or a guaranteed event for Odin that like coincides with the Thor stuff, but they don't line up together, that may be a situation where I get a little bit difficult in the fusion because Odin seems awesome. Freya, she's good. She's actually surprisingly good. I'm going to do a video on her soon, but it really just depends on how everything lines up on what I can go for and what I can't go for. My current stockpile of shards isn't bad, but it's also not great. Though I am doing mythical, so if we have like a champion chase, then I can just pop that mythical, gather a couple thousand points easy from that. But guys, appreciate you all watching. Let me get back to my home spot on the screen. Best of luck going for this fusion. I'll do some updates as we get closer to that time. And yeah, catch you guys in the next one.